YouTube, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 6 articles in this episode for you. Of course, are in the description of the video for your convenience. Make sure that the audio is working here before I get started. There we go. Okay, the first one I have for you is off of PAC Review about elementary schools teaching kids to spot fake news. This is absolutely appalling what's going on. The title of it says, elementary schools are teaching kids how to spot fake news. Does it make you mad? It might be fake. The Northeast is how to recognize fake news. Teachers and college professors on recognizing fake news civics courses, reports of the Associated Press. I think only education can solve this problem, Pat Winters-Lauro, a Keene University professor, said. Lauro launched a course on news literacy for the spring semester. As part of the classes, teachers give their students various tips on how to figure out fake or legitimate. Students, does make you mad? Does the tips suggest then it might be fake? And false reports often target emotions with claims of outlandish spending or unpatriotic words. If common sense tells you it can't be true, the tip says. The lessons also suggest looking for websites that claim to be fact checkers, like Snopes or factcheck.org, to see what those outlets are reporting. They know the truth if it bit them in the rear end. Students are also told to be wary of satire and to check the URL to ensure the site is valid. How is the writing? Multiple exclamation points don't have a place in most real newsrooms. A high school government teacher included fake news as a topic in her lesson on presidential debates and fact-checking websites. To think about how much it's affecting people and swaying their opinion, Buffalo area student Hannah Mercer said that teaching the material has been difficult because of how politically divided her classroom is. It hasn't been a topic to teach in terms of material because there's so much going on out there, Lauro. It's difficult in terms of politics because we have such a divided country and the students are divided too on the beliefs. There's some, if you want to pull it up and take a look at that all for yourself. Like we need our government-run school system to teach about fake news. That's another homeschooling your kids. The next one is off of Liberty Writers News. It says, burn, baby, burn. The New York Times with one tweet that exposes their lies. President Trump has no great love for the lying mainstream media. However, there are he hates most of all: CNN, Washington Post, and most of all, the New York Times. The New York Times for telling a huge lie to the American people. They claim Trump hasn't spoken to Chinese President Xi Jinping since November 1st. The tweet read, New York Times does major fake news China story saying Mr. Xi has not spoken to Mr. Trump since November the 14th. Yesterday, Trump have a long Xi. He managed to make peace with China by reaffirming the One China policy and opened the door to trade negotiations. Like not spoken since November the 14th? No, I didn't think so either. Confirmed that it was a good phone call, and there is some video in this if you want to pull it up to see that for yourself. It says, of course, the New York Times has since updated their story. However, their print version from yesterday was never changed. They claim their deadlines forced them to print a version, but that sounds kind of like a cop-out. Is that Trump had already spoken to the Chinese president before that paper was ever distributed, and they made no real effort to correct the record. One I have is off of Conservative Tribune, and it says, getting an 8-foot bulletproof wall. Where's the libs at now? Screaming for President Donald Trump's plan to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border to stop illegal aliens and terrorists from entering our nation undetected. On Thursday, the city of Paris announced that it would be building a wall of its own around the Eiffel Tower. Yet liberals have been strangely silent about this wall, Breitbart reported. An 8-foot tall bulletproof glass wall will be erected around the Eiffel Tower to thwart any potential terror attack around the most iconic building in France. And I'm waiting for it to scroll up here. Terror attacks over the past few years. Now it scrolled a little too much. We'll get it to cooperate here with me just a second. My goodness. In this as well, if you want to pull it up to see that for yourself. Page 2. My goodness. Come on, hamster. Okay, France has suffered many terror attacks over the past few years, so it shouldn't be any surprise the country is taking steps to protect its monuments and tourists from any more attacks. Of course, liberals haven't objected to this wall because it would mean admitting that the only reason this wall needs to be built is because of the failed liberal policies regarding unchecked from the Middle East. Can have a wall, but the U.S.-Mexican border with all of its smuggling, drug trafficking, can't. That's liberal logic for you. And I'm waiting for it to scroll. Videos in these seems to was wanting to scroll on up and insist that I see the video for some reason. Come on. Sky News noted that this wall, which will be erected later this year, will replace metal fencing that's been around the Eiffel Tower since the Euro soccer match. Tourists will now go through security checkpoints to visit the tower, but there will be no extra charge. This is that we now have to bulletproof walls around cultural sites because of how bad the terror threat has become. They're going a series of renovations over the next 15 years to improve the site for tourists, and this wall is being built as part of those renovations, the UK reported. Scroll up. Has indeed suffered horrific attacks. The United States is just, oh, this is a comedy of errors trying to get this thing to scroll properly here. Okay, well, while France has indeed suffered horrific attacks, the United States is just as threatened by radical Islamic terrorists. We have a right to build our own wall to protect our country, just as France has the right to build a wall to protect one of famous buildings. We have Hamster catches up to me here. Of the Hill. Security advisor Michael Flynn resigns. Security advisor Michael Flynn has resigned after reports he misled senior Trump White House officials about relations with Russia. And retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg as acting national security advisor. Kellogg served as Flynn's chief of staff on the National Security Council. The embattled Flynn blamed his resignation late Monday on the events that led him to inadvertently give Vice President Mike Pence and others incomplete information about his phone conversations with Russian to the U.S. Sergei. Sincerely apologized to the president and the vice president, and they have accepted my apology, Flynn wrote in his resignation letter. Defended Flynn's contacts with Russia, and when it became clear that the national security advisor had not been forthcoming, serious questions were raised about his ability to keep his job. It comes just 24 days into Trump's presidency and represents a dramatic overhaul of his team of senior aides consumed by controversy. Former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA, was trusted advisor to Trump throughout the 2016 campaign, but was seen as a controversial figure by many inside the White House. He noted his friendship with the president in thanking him for his personal loyalty and adding, "This team will go as one of the greatest presidencies in U.S. history." Flynn's future at the White House had been the topic of intense speculation since Friday, after reports first emerged on his denial that he talked about sanctions against Russia for its election-related hacks top on the U.S. Those reports, whoops, fast here. Those reports, along with his long-standing ties to Russia, sparked concerns among U.S. officials and members of Congress. The Justice Department reportedly warned Trump White House counsel Don McGahn Trump's inauguration that Flynn may have been vulnerable to blackmail by Russians due to discrepancies between what he told Kislyak and Pence. Publicly said Flynn never discussed sanctions against Russia during his pre-inauguration conversation with Kislyak. Admitted the topic may have come up during his talks with the ambassador. Relying on Flynn's account, Pence told CBS News in mid-January that Flynn did not discuss anything having to do with the United States' decision to expel diplomats or impose censure against Russia. Was reportedly angered. The Washington Post report was published last week, claimed Flynn did discuss the sanctions, and he later apologized to Pence. But that apparently was not enough for Flynn to save his job. While it was skating on thin ice, was a mystery throughout most of the day on Monday. On Flynn's status, he was not asked about it during a news conference with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, while his senior aides sent mixed signals to the press about Flynn's future. Other senior aides to Trump during the press conference, sitting in a front row of the East Room and prompting speculations he might be spared. So Kellyanne Conway said he enjoyed Trump on Monday afternoon, but soon after, Press Secretary Sean Spicer told reporters the president was evaluating the Flynn situation with the vice president. It is sure to spark even more questions about how much Trump knew about Flynn's conference. Spicer was, however, when asked whether Flynn was speaking about the sanctions with the Russian ambassador. And I'm waiting for the hamster. Absolutely not, the spokesman said. Flynn reportedly spoke with Kislyak multiple times during the transition, and it scrolled too fast. Flynn reportedly spoke with Kislyak multiple times during the transition, including on December the 29th, the day then President Obama Moscow for its hacking of Democratic that intelligence agencies allege Trump's campaign. Russia declined to respond with reciprocal sanctions, prompting questions about whether Flynn had provided assurance to the Russian diplomat the punishment would be rescinded once Trump took office. An explicit assurance was given. U.S. officials, for goodness sakes, to settle down here. There we go. U.S. officials who saw a transcript of the call told the Post and other outlets it merited investigation. Also represented a break with longstanding protocol. Some legal experts believe they could have violated the Logan Act, which bars private citizens from interfering with official U.S. diplomacy. No one has ever been prosecuted under the law. Still, reports about the conversation of condemnation Monday from Republican and Democratic lawmakers. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, Democrat of New York, urged the Trump administration to pull Flynn's security clearance while an investigation was conducted. Mike Kaufman, Republican of Colorado, said Flynn should step down immediately if he purposely misled the president. Flynn's exit comes amid a tumultuous first 4 weeks for Trump in the White House, during which questions have been raised about the future of several advisors on his senior team. The president is said to have been frustrated by the rocky rollout of his executive action on refugee and travel from 7 Muslim-majority countries. He has swirled about Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and Spicer, who have been the subject of scorn from Trump allies. Personal vote of confidence earlier on Monday, telling reporters his chief of staff is doing a great job. Now Trump must replace the aide coordinating the administration's national security posture around the world. It's unclear who might replace Flynn on a permanent basis, but speculation has revolved around Kellogg, Homeland Security Advisor, retired Navy Harward, or former CIA Director, and General David Petraeus. Flynn has also been a controversial figure in national security circles. Out as head of the DIA, reportedly after clashing with the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. He also raised eyebrows for his contacts with Moscow, traveled to a gala there as a guest of the Kremlin-backed Russia Today television network sat next to the country's leader, Vladimir Putin. Goal that I have for you is off of PAC Review, and it says Obama PAC, or PAC, Obama PAC, organized disruptions at the nationwide GOP town halls, bust protesters from political action that fundraised for President Barack Obama during the 2012 presidential election, bust protesters to Republican town hall events nationwide earlier in February, according to a Sunday report from the Washington Post. Nationwide continue to search for ways to oppose President Donald Trump after the 2016 election, and they keep into funding from years ago. Pro-Obama Super PAC organized protests at several town halls, protesters outside. Since Super PACs were legalized in 2010, Citizens United Supreme Court decision, this marks the first time that money raised to elect one president was used to undermine another. The town hall protests largely opposed order that limited travel from 7 nations identified as potential sources of terrorism. Former staffers of Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton and former President Bill Clinton are also pouncing on the opportunity. The Center for American Progress, operated by Clinton advisor Neera Tanden, worked with pro-Obama groups in February to encourage Democrats to oppose Republican lawmakers, including Representatives Jason Chavez and Dave Brought, at several town halls. What's organizing people is that they're fearing for the country they grew up in, Tandon told the Post. People are definitely seeing the purpose of working through the political process to oppose. Sustained effort to keep voters motivated until the 2018 midterm elections, especially considering the fact that neither Obama nor Clinton were able to motivate voters to the polls in November. Were largely assumed to drive votes for Democrats, like black or young female voters, either didn't turn out to vote or voted for Trump in large numbers than early polling suggested. Despite the united action by former staffers, the leadership of the Democratic Party is split in a continued battle as the progressive wing fights the establishment for control. Nowhere is that fight more visible than in the election for the chair of the Democratic National Convention. Progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren back Representative Keith Ellison for the chair, but former vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine openly endorsed former Labor Secretary Tom Perez. The traditional activist wing of the Democratic Party, the highly influential labor unions, remain divided on which candidate will better support their interests. The next article I have is off of Western Journalism, and it says Chelsea Clinton claims she won't seek U.S. Senate seat. Has been rumored to be a possible candidate for the political office, said Friday that she will not be seeking the Senate seat once held by her mother. Clinton's emphatic response when during a Friday fashion event in New York City, she was asked if she would seek the U.S. Senate seat currently held by Kristen Gillibrand. Gillibrand was appointed to her seat in 2009 by then Governor David Paterson after Hillary Clinton was appointed Secretary of State by former President Barack Obama. Clinton's comments followed a gossip piece in Friday's New York Daily News that discussed the potential of a race between Clinton and Caroline Kennedy for Gillibrand's seat should Gillibrand run for the White House in 2020. Reports that Chelsea Clinton would be the next member of the Clinton family to seek office swirled about in the wake of her mother's defeat at the hands of President Donald Trump. The focus of most rumors was a possible seat in the House of Representatives. However, Chelsea Clinton raised her potential profile in recent days by throwing a zinger at Kellyanne Conway after Conway misspoke about the arrest of 2 refugees in Bowling Green in 2011. Says, well, get it to calm down here. In its gossip page, speculation about Chelsea Clinton, the news quoted what it said was a source close to both families saying Clinton was engaging in the political arena. Is the beginning of Chelsea Clinton's political career, the Daily News quoted its source as saying. Kennedy was America's ambassador to Japan in the past 3 years. She, too, fueled speculation about next steps during a Friday interview on NBC's Today when she was asked about running for office. Home a week or so, Kennedy answered, "I'm looking around to figure out what I would do next." In 2009, Kennedy had expressed an interest in the Senate seat appointment of Hillary Clinton. And that's all I have for you in this episode. If you like what I'm doing here, give this a thumbs up. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and that way you'll stay informed.